Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Saturday, March 15th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 168 days, the game against Michigan in 259 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at Grateful Griddle OH, or even better, meet them out today. They are out at the Mainline Bar downtown on Saturday from 5:30 to 9 o'clock tonight. It is at 216 East Main Street in downtown Columbus. Go check it out yourself. Good vibes, always free with any purchase. All right, so on today's show, going to let you hear a little bit from new Ohio State defensive coordinator Matt Patricia. We got a chance to talk to him about a week ago in the lead up to Monday's start of spring practice. He had some real interesting stuff to say, and frankly, he's someone who I think is maybe the subject of the most interest of any of the new folks around the Ohio State football program this year. So let you hear directly from him some of the stuff that he had to say about his previous experience in college, his previous experience in the pros, what this season's going to be like, his first impressions of Ohio State players, and much, much more. Let's start with just, what have you been doing? Because he had a year off after he was working with the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2023 season. He was not working in the NFL last year, so he made the most of it. He was not backpacking across Europe or anything like that, but studying the game of college football and studying football in general.
Yeah, you know what? And I think you nailed it right on the head there. That year off really gave me a good chance to kind of look at the full landscape of football, honestly. You know, when you're kind of just in that grind and you're going all the time and you're playing a lot of games, so, you know, the season goes late, you just go into that next mode. And for me, it was a great opportunity to kind of step back and say, okay, what's changed? And honestly, for me, one of the most exciting things I think in college football was the playoffs. Like, to have that, that's what, you know, I loved about the NFL was like, just give me a chance, get us in the playoffs, and we got a chance to like make a run or be able to get going. And I thought that was so cool in college football this past year. I was excited to see it. Obviously, it was great for Ohio State, and that, along with, you know, some of the things we're doing with NIL and some of the other changes that are coming, it just made me feel like kind of what I had been doing, you know. And the NFL is always changing, and they're going in a direction too. And I thought that it just felt like this is, you know, studying it in the off season, that college football to me really felt like, okay, hey, that's where I want to be. You know, it's going to be very familiar in certain things for me, the playoffs, the competition, all of that. It was really kind of very, I don't know, kind of just called to me, I guess.
Matt Patricia has a lot of experience working as a defensive coordinator. He does not, however, have a lot of experience, at least in the last 20 years or so, having to recruit. So what has that adjustment been like for him?
Yeah, huge adjustment, absolutely. You know, recruited a long time ago. You know, it was a while, and that landscape has completely changed. You know what? I love the recruiting process, though. You know, and I'm in the deep end right now. I'm trying to swim and get caught up, you know, as I dive in. But, you know, building those relationships and, again, having conversations with parents, having conversations with, you know, mom, dad, you know, potential player for us, student athlete, telling them what and how we can help develop and grow, you know, their son. That's really important, you know, and that's something I think that, you know, for me, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed having those conversations. I enjoyed building those relationships. You do some recruiting, it's different in the NFL, but, you know, so talking about things like football, scheme, all that's kind of the same. You know, like, hey, how do you use me in this position, or what do you think about me here? The evaluation of the player, that's the same. But the beauty of it, or the extra wonderful benefit, is now we're talking about, you know, we're talking about your son as a person. How is he going to grow and develop? School, learning, just, you know, from being a young man into having to go into that next step. And look, for obviously the guys that are coming here, they want to go to the NFL. If that's their goal, that's certainly something I can help them with. You know, I've had a lot of jobs in the NFL on both sides of the ball, and, you know, front office roles and head coach roles and all, you know, coordinator roles. So I know what's required for that. I know what's needed for that. So just being able to talk to the kids and the parents, I know that's like a long-term, you know, sort of vision, but that's what they want to do after they get done here. So I can help them with that. So that's all been it's been fun. It's the hardest thing for me right now is just, you know, I'm trying to, the areas and, you know, the bigger schools, and obviously, you know, I mean, look, there's nothing better than Ohio high school football. I mean, this is like, you know, I know that from even being in the NFL, like just where all the good players are coming from. So I'm excited to be in this state. That is amazing.
Matt Patricia has talked in the past about the fact that they need to build their system around the talent that they have. So what are the overall principles that guide a Matt Patricia defense within those guys the understanding that you're still building a system around the talent.
Yeah, and that's something that kind of developed, right? I think when I originally went to New England in the early 2000s, the game was different. There was much more like two-back sets and double tight end sets, and we were fundamentally a 3-4 team, as people would say. Now our 3-4 changed through the years. We always kind of were developing it and evolving it, but the game changed. And one of the things that kind of happened to us at New England, luckily enough, fortunately, I'm all very lucky with the things that happened for a reason, but we would pick late in the draft because of our season. Our 3-4 scheme really expanded. A couple of our coaches left. Romeo Crennel left, and Eric went to the Jets. And so it became much more difficult to find the pieces to fit the scheme. So we had to take the reverse effect. Let's just get the best players we can. Let's bring them in, and let's figure out how to use them. Let's figure out how to put them in position. And then with 11 personnel and no huddles and all those things that evolved, the game changed from a really heavy kind of like call it base defensive packages to multiple sub packages, and that's something else that happened. And we just had guys that evolved the defense through the years because they were on our team. So saying all that, I guess what I tell everybody is, my whole goal is to try to figure out, what do you do well? How do I put you in the best position to go get on the field and do that job well to the best of your ability? Because if you can play fast, you can play aggressive, because I have you in your skill set, then you're going to be disruptive as a defensive player. You're going to help us win as a defense, win as a team, and we can fit the pieces around where everybody goes, in that accord. So, and then grow from there. So that's kind of like, I've coached all of it, right? It doesn't really matter. I've coached 3-4, 4-3, nickel, big nickel, dimes, all those packages, 4 down fronts, 5 down fronts, odd spacing. You kind of do through the course of the year. So to me, it's all like, hey, that guy can do this or that guy can do this. And then I also think it creates roles. So it's not always like the same 11 on the field. So if you can have a really good skill set and you can do something, and if it's in a critical situation, then we got to get you in that spot and help you be in that situation to win the game.
If they are building the system around the talent, oh boy, is there plenty of talent in that Woody Hayes Athletic Center this year. Let's start with just Matt Patricia's first impressions of some of the guys on defense, first impressions of Caleb Downs, some of the other guys he has to work with this year.
It's hard not to walk in the building and try to find Caleb as fast as possible, right? He is unbelievable, amazing player, very versatile. There's a lot of you look at a guy like that and you're like, okay, we're going to be able to do some really fun things with him, and he's super smart, and he's such a great student of the game, and his approach is amazing. Sonny Styles, when you look at him and Arvell. Those are guys. We always had big backers. I walked in and I was like, okay, I'm home. I'm like, this is like, these guys are, they're big, they're long, they can move, they eat up a lot of space. So now my brain just starts going. I'm like, oh, we can do this. We can move them here. We can put them there. We can line up here and do all those things. But then you got IGB outside. Jermaine. You have so many great players. To me, I don't know. It's exciting. It's exciting.
Matt Patricia is in a little bit of a unique spot where he's coming in to work as a defensive coordinator, but the whole rest of the defensive assistant staff, those guys are all returning. And these are all guys that he's never worked with before, except for Tim Walton, who he shared a staff with back at Syracuse in about 20 years back. So what has that been like to be working with all new people?
How lucky for me, right, to be able to come in a situation where these guys can really help bring me in, and let me. And so obviously I lean on Tim quite a bit because of our relationship going back. But Coach Johnson and I have known each other for a long time, going back to when I was at Syracuse University. The head coach there was Paul Pasqualoni. He had played at Penn State. So we always kind of had a Penn State, Syracuse, kind of connection, and obviously just admired him through the years and always was talking to him because he always has great players coming out wherever he's coached to come to our level. So you were always building those relationships. And so to be able to sit down and talk football and philosophy with him is amazing. The cover stuff with Tim and I, it's like a natural conversation because, and again, Tim was in the NFL for a long time too. So a lot of those conversations are great. Matt and, James, I worked out James here. I'm probably pretty sure he was out on this field, and I was, yelling at him. But, super smart player, a guy that saw the game extremely well and was able to play fast because of it. And so all of that, those connections, it's been really awesome. And my job is really to sit and learn and try to observe, and then, okay, where can I add? Where can we change? Where can we adjust? And, and then we got to work it out as a staff.
If you're watching on YouTube, you have already seen this, but during that interview, Matt Patricia had the pencil kind of tucked behind his ear inside his hat. That's sort of like a signature thing for him. So where did that start?
Sorry. Yeah, I did. I was at practice too. Sorry. I was rolling.
Yeah, is that just...
You know what? I'm always taking notes. I actually don't have mine, but I usually carry like a little notebook. So even when our guys are working out, I'm probably walking around just taking little notes, and, we're always drawing football. It's kind of just a habit at most points from being a young coach and breaking film. I think I kind of told the story on, it was Julian's podcast or the show that Coach and I did, but as a young coach, we would break down film. I would draw every play, in detail, all 22 guys, footwork, depths, alignments, all of it. And it really was, we hand drew them. And, a good old number 2 was the best. You get it nice and sharp. You could have a nice clean point, and the lines were smooth. But it used to take us like 12 hours to break a game. You're drawing every play. So when you're coaching all day long and then trying to break 4 or 5 games during the course of the week, if you had 10 minutes, I didn't care where you were in the building, you had your pads with you, you were like, boom, let me start to draw. It kind of just went in the hat behind the ear because that was the safest place to put it. So that's kind of where that is. But I'm always trying to take notes and stuff.
Matt Patricia was the defensive coordinator for Bill Belichick with the New England Patriots for 3 Super Bowl championships. And just like Patricia, Bill Belichick is back to college this year as well. He's the head coach at North Carolina. So did Bill Belichick making the jump to the college game maybe help inspire Matt Patricia to make the same move as well?
Yeah, I would say this.
Start to wrap it up for these first.
Bill and I are obviously very close. We talk a lot, and we've spent a great, almost 2 decades together of football conversation too. But we were together every day this past fall. We did the coach show on YouTube, which was great. That was something I wrote last spring, and I just, it was another way for he and I to get in the room and just teach football, which we love to do. But we did have a lot of conversations about college football, through the course of really last spring, taking a look at how we really get fascinated with roster builds. So one of the things I think that was really interesting with college football was with the portal, with, the 2 opportunities there, with recruiting, how fast can you build your team? How fast can you really, get the good players in the building? In the NFL, it was pretty rigid. You knew your points, whether it was free agency to the draft to the 53 cut to the trade deadline. Those are the 4 opportunities. Then with the contracts, how many really big contracts can you sign? And we got fascinated with the college model, so we really started studying a lot of the different schools and how they were building the rosters. So we did have a lot of those conversations.
You can learn a lot from a successful year, but sometimes you're going to learn a lot more from years that are, not quite as successful. Matt Patricia, I think, took a lot from his time as the defensive coordinator in New England, where they had a ton of success, but he also had a very unsuccessful stint as the Detroit Lions head coach. That does not exactly put you in unique company, not being a successful Detroit Lions head coach, but what did he learn from his time in Detroit?
There's so much you learn in that situation. I mean, obviously, for myself, going from being a coordinator to a head coach, there's no book. It's really, until you're in that position. And that's why, so many first-time head coaches, it's not easy, and a lot of times when you go back and if you get into second opportunity, you have more success because if you do take that opportunity, and mine in Detroit was great. I learned a lot, great family, the Ford families that owned it. So, it was a great franchise. I wasn't my best version of a coach. It's something I certainly I take responsibility for. And through the course of my years of coaching, not all of them are going to be perfect. I'm trying as much as I can. But that first year was really hard. And I was trying to learn a lot, and I didn't do a good job. I reflected a lot too. I think one of the things that was really that I watched that Michael Jordan documentary. Did you see that? And something triggered when I watched it. And he was talking about his intensity when they lost the championship and how he told everybody that was coming in the building the next year exactly how it was going to be, his focus. We had lost the Super Bowl and we had been, it was Super Bowl championship, it was every other year. And so we had won in 16, we went back in 17 and we lost. And I think that mindset, when you lose that game, all you want to do is you just want to go back. It's just your level of where your intensity and urgency is at such a high level. And I didn't do a good job of walking into a new building where they didn't lose this. That wasn't their fault. That was my fault. And I never reset myself, I don't think, well enough to like, hey, I'm in someplace new. Like, these guys didn't have that journey last year. Like, I gotta start to teach and coach again. I gotta start to build again. And I didn't do a good enough job with that.
And finally, Matt Patricia has been teaching defense and coaching defense in the NFL for 20-something years now. So does he have to maybe dial things down a little bit, simplify things a little bit as you move from the NFL to college with some of its rules on exactly how many hours you can be coaching and on the field and practice and all that kind of stuff?
I think the beauty of football, and definitely something I learned at New England, was let's take the extremely complex and let's try to boil it down to maybe 3 to 5 things, really simple, so we can really detail that out as much as possible. I think that's a really cool thing to do. I think that in general, yes, we have lots of packages and all that stuff, but I always felt going into a game, my whole goal was like, I just want to make sure they can go play fast and play aggressive. So I don't want to have too much where they can't do that. I want them to be able to go play. They play. I'm not playing. They play the game. So let them get on the field, let them play fast, let them play aggressive. And I think that is a good balance of making sure you have enough to, defend what you're going to see, but also, let the players go play free enough where they can be aggressive and have the tools on the field they need, if that makes sense.
Well, that'll do it for today, but we will get our first look at Matt Patricia out on the practice field, as well as the rest of the Buckeyes. Monday morning, we will have coverage from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Tony, Kevin, and I will be out there covering the start of 2025 Ohio State spring football, the national championship game, not even 2 months in the past, and here we are already ready to roll out with a whole new season of Ohio State football as the Buckeyes try to defend that national championship. We'll have coverage of it for you all year long at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. We've got our whole team of X's Nose Gurus there as well, all to make you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.